Welcome to The Hard Truth, here with Chris Sayers. Talk to us about CMHC. Talk to us about commercial financing.
CMHC is known, obviously, for updates. The update as of right now is that they're making energy efficiency harder on newly constructed buildings. Now people are going to have to outweigh the cost of what that's going to take versus would just do affordability.
Is that your thought? That this is all about driving affordability?
Potentially.
I saw the fallout firsthand when CMHC changed the rule that they wouldn't pay out a private lender.
Yeah. I remember that one, yeah.
Crippled people.
Yep. People are used to this leverage standpoint and make sense of their internal rate of returns and their equity position. Through our tools, you have the ability to effectively reduce your equity position in that project to where developers can burr developments. There's developers out here building with next to no money in deals.
What are you seeing from the big condo developers? I feel like I drive around town and I see more and more purpose-built rental high-rises.
Most of these are not purpose-built rental builders. They have very little experience. You know, you have somebody that's building 900 units and they've never even heard of CMHC.
Welcome to The Hard Truth, here with Chris Sayers. We're going to be diving into Chris's experience into real estate, how he got started, some of his first deals, and we're also going to dive into major commercial development, commercial financing, CMHC rules, CMHC updates, how to navigate it, underwriting, and everything in between. Make sure to watch the full episode. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get into real estate? Obviously, commercial mortgages. Where did it all start? What's your background? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so originally from Scarborough, Ontario, so a little ways away from here. Grew up with a mom who's in the medical field and a dad who was in construction. And so I think that was probably my first experience. I remember him bringing the big trucks home, getting to do the horn, which was my favorite thing as a kid. And so seeing him and, you know, all the contracts that he had, the stress that he brought home, the blueprints, he was in custom home working in Etobicoke. Okay. I think was my first foray into what was possible. From there, you know, sports, was heavy in sports, but was also heavy in music. And I think both of those two attributes led to the success that I've had in commercial mortgages, being, you know, you had to contact sport, being an entrepreneur. But you also have to have the creativity on the other side of that to be successful. So I think both of those growing up parlayed into the success that I've had. From there, in about 2019, I bought my first duplex. So I did a duplex conversion in Kitchener-Waterloo. That was great.
Did you get your hands dirty though?
Oh yeah, we got our hands dirty, absolutely. Great experience. Overall was really good, and we ended in a market in a time where you could make mistakes. You know, you could make mistakes and you could recover from them and still profit, which you can't do that right now, obviously.
No.
So from there, that translated into commercial. As soon as we did a few of those, I was, you know, I want control over my exit. And control over my exit at that point in time was multifamily, commercial multifamily, cap rate, value driven, not personally qualifying for properties. And so we went up to Sudbury because the barrier to entry in Kitchener at the time was too much. So Sudbury, I could get in, I could do $700,000-$800,000 purchase. I could refi at 1.4, get up to 85% of that with CMHC, only put in maybe 100 or 150,000 into renovations. And as long as you had a vacant building, or had confidence that you were going to get those tenants out, you could pull out, you know, majority of all your capital and have a surplus. And so that, as soon as I got into that in about 2021, that's where my wheels started turning. And I saw the financing side of things. And from there, I got to shadow a prominent figure in the industry, and his business at the time was CMHC. So the first mortgage that I ever did was a CMHC mortgage. And from there,
as a broker.
As a broker.
Got it. Okay.
And so from there, you know, the rest is history in that regard in terms of my career. It just parlayed naturally into what I was doing from the very beginning, and it was a very easy transition.
So I'm gonna want to go back to some of the things you talked about, but 2019 you did a duplex conversion, where 2025 you're financing the construction of skyscrapers.
Yeah.
We got there quick, so I just want to talk a little bit about that. I love what you said, why you switched from duplex to commercial, where you can control it. It's about numbers instead of comparables.
Correct.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I want to make sure our viewer, because this is the same thing for me why I've gone commercial. It takes the emotion out of it. It's data. Talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we did the duplex conversion, we thought that you put a certain number of renovations into a project, a certain dollar figure, and then on top of that, you get a certain dollar figure for the rents, right? And then you think, okay, this is where I'm going to wind up. But then your neighbor sells down the street, and then maybe 2 streets down, that duplex sells, and all of a sudden you're getting your appraisal and you're $95,000, $100,000 shy of where you need to be on value, and then on top of that you're only getting 80% of that value,
right,
on the refinance. So there's so many outside factors when you're playing in the residential space that you can't control, no matter how good a product you have. You could have the finest Italian marble and your rents could be $10,000 a month, but you're still limited to the market, right?
What did the comparable sell for?
What did the comparable sell for?
Right.
And that to a degree is still prominent in commercial, but lesser of its weight in the appraised value, right? And so we still have a cost approach, we still have a comparable approach, and we have an income approach with commercial, but we can justify the income approach with our income and our expenses and have more control over the operations of that asset that ultimately leads to its value. That in conjunction with the better financing led me to commercial. To me, it was less risky. Now, that's not to say you can't do duplexes, and there are people in the area that have done 50, 60, 70 plus duplex conversions and done them incredibly successfully. But the financing side of that, outside of value, to qualify for that, as well as anybody, that's incredibly difficult to do. You're going to need partners. You're probably going to have to JV. You're probably going to be off title. You're probably going to have to, you're not going to have the control that you do in commercial.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think just to kind of go back on the residential for commercial, because you did say on commercial it can happen. Somebody could sell an apartment building for less and drive down comps. But it's more business. There's less emotion in that.
Correct.
Right? So if on a residential street, if somebody panic sells and drops the price, that can really affect your comp. It could happen on the commercial side, but more than likely business people who are transacting these are going to be less emotional, which keeps your comparable effect more limited.
And it's happening now because it's happening on new builds. So new builds are the ones hurting right now for their appraised values because the comps of these commercial properties of the old stock, the ones that are selling, are driving values down of new appraised values on the developments. Developments are what are being built and driving the industry right now. But the comps of the existing stock, which are not what they were 2 or 3 years ago, are driving values down. And so there's, cap rates can adjust by 0.25 depending on if you have a 10-unit townhome or a 10-unit purpose-built rental. And that 0.25 adjustment based off of what's selling in the area, that can be detrimental. So there's still, it may be easier to control your exit and think the future of what that may be, but at the same time, it can adjust downwards. 0.25 on a cap rate can be detrimental to a pro forma.
100%. 100%. We're kind of dovetailing into it. For those of you who don't know, Chris is, Chris and the Four Capital guys. You guys are leaders in our country in terms of CMHC financing. So I've had Nicholas on so far, got you on today. I'm going to space you guys out so I get my updates regularly.
There we go.
So talk to us about CMHC. Talk to us about commercial financing. Talk to us about where you guys are. What do our listeners need to know and understand right now?
Yeah, so I won't go into what CMHC is, but I'll go into its current place in the market right now. So currently CMHC insures probably anywhere between 85 and 90% of purpose-built rental stock.
Sorry, I want to do one thing.
Yeah.
So we're 85, 90%. I'm going to do one thing about what CMHC is, because I still today, CMHC is the insurer, not the lender.
That is correct.
And I know that's plain for us, but it's still a common misconception where, CMHC is financing it. CMHC is insuring the financing. Correct. Okay, so for those who are new, I'm going to take 1 second to clarify that. Please continue.
Yes, they insure the financing and allow the lender to have amazing terms.
Yes.
Anywhere from 85 to 95% loan to value or loan to costs. We can get anywhere between 40 and 50-year amortizations and at competitive spreads. Right. And so the financing is what allows the pro formas of today to work. And that is why 85 to 90% of newly built construction across our country is utilized with CMHC-insured financing.
Right. Okay.
And so with that said, they have been doing updates. CMHC is known, obviously, for updates throughout the year, and most notably, one happened just a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And so the update as of right now is that they're making energy efficiency harder on newly constructed buildings. So we were going off the 2017 National Building Code. They're now implementing 2020 data that we'll be going off of. And so 2020 to 2017 is already a 15% increase. But on top of that, they're now saying it needs to be 70% above 2020 National Building Code. And so what that means is your typical heat pump scenario that a lot of investors were doing. As of what we've been told from the energy modelers that we speak to, that's probably not going to get you level 3 anymore.
Okay.
You're going to have increased insulation, possible solar, geothermal, airtight testing, a bunch of other things, as well as the airsoft heat pumps to get you that level 3 50 points. So they are making it challenging. They want probably close to near net zero is what their goal is, following a European model. And they don't want people abusing the program with these higher levered loans with not implementing what their actual goal of the program was.
What's your thoughts on this? Is this good, bad? What do you think?
Like anything, people will find the ways to make it more conducive for them, the ways to get around it. I'm sure there's going to be loopholes, but overall, I do think it's going to make people question in the beginning whether energy efficiency is going to be an option for them. I think now people are going to have to outweigh the cost of what that's going to take versus just do affordability? And do I do affordability, 10% of my units on a 10-unit building is 1 unit? Do I do that to get my 50 points now instead of level 3 energy efficiency?
Is that your thought, that this is all about driving affordability?
Potentially, yes.
They're making this tighter, more difficult, but if you just concede to the affordability right out of the gate, that one's not moving.
Correct. Yeah, there may be a combination of that involved. They definitely probably want more people to use that, and lots of developers are using that. But I think a combination of energy efficiency, like level 1, which is only 20 points, with 50 points affordability, that combination gets you 70 points. I think you're going to see a lot of developers move into that mix and match, where they're getting a bit of both. And at 70 points, you can still get 95% of costs and a 45-year amortization. So you're only 5 years off of your 100 points of your amortization. So lots of people can make sense of that.
Right. Interesting. So in terms of the timing of this implementation, is it effective immediately? Or so if you're submitted, because this is my biggest gripe with CMHC, and they're a business like anything. It's the changes that are being made when people are mid project, mid commitment. Maybe they haven't gotten their bridge debt, or they don't have a COI. What is the timing of this? What's the impact of it?
Yeah, so thankfully this time around, and they're probably learned from the last time they did an energy rule change a couple years ago. This time around, they're giving a grace period to September 30th of 2026. So this is going to allow people who are in design and development, who already have spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on their drawings. They know exactly what they're doing from a mechanical standpoint to proceed, as long as that application and they have that energy attestation, which energy attestation is the sign off from the energy modeler stating what level you've achieved.
Yep.
As long as we have that before September 30th of 26, we'll be fine. So people who already have the COI, who are building with CMHC, or who are going to be applying, between now and then are going to be fine. It's the people who are building with private financing or non-insured financing, which just means a conventional loan that isn't backed by CMHC. They need to be careful because they're the ones who got hurt last time as well.
Right.
Because you're building without the COI in place. COI is certificate of insurance.
Yep.
With CMHC. And so when you build without having that in place, you're not grandfathered in, you're not approved with that current rule set. So you got to time your submission to ensure that you're going to get it in before that cutoff. If it goes past that date, you would have to adhere to the new rules.
And so this is critical. Let's talk about the people who are building without a COI. Mm-hmm. And they're intending on going CMHC, but they don't have a COI. How do they mitigate their risk? Yeah,
so they have to build with the intention of what their application and their program that they choose to proceed in, they have to build with that in mind. But you're right, they do take the risk, because that program or that rule set can change at any point in time. It's happened before. So how do they mitigate that risk? You have to speak with your lender, you have to speak with your broker, and you have to, when a rule change like this happens, you then have to go in the defense mode. Right. The defense mode is, am I either going to speed this up? Am I getting my attestation now? Maybe I was submitting November. Maybe now I'm going to submit September or August, and I'm going to get that application in. If you're going to be building and it's going to go into 2026, okay, well, what design and development changes can I do now to ensure all the consultants and stakeholders are on the same page? That way I'm not proceeding my drawings to a certain point and having to redo them and waste and spend more money. You would then start this right now. Okay. Right. So that's how you would mitigate it.
I'd like to maybe add also underwrite without CMHC.
Yes.
Does this work without CMHC? Yes. And that's my advice to most people in the beginning is, does your deal work without?
Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, 100%. But does your deal work without CMHC? Because
of course,
I saw the fallout firsthand when CMHC changed the rule that they wouldn't pay out a private lender.
Yeah. I remember that one. Yeah.
Crippled people.
Yep.
There were so many people who were at the edge, ready to go to CMHC and in private. They had to go to the bridge lenders. The delays were huge.
Yep.
And then by the time CMHC picked up the file, half the people didn't have the liquidity anymore because they spent all their money on private to get there. So I've been of the belief for a long time you need to underwrite without CMHC, but like you said, easier said than done. The feedback I get all the time is it doesn't work without CMHC. I need CMHC.
Yes, yeah, 25% equity in the deal, whether that be value or 75% of costs, is what you can get on the conventional market. Now there are, private and mezz top-up solutions where we can have financing in behind, but that's temporary, right? And so to tell a developer that they have to leave 25% equity, it's like, that's the norm in the States. Right. They don't have financing like we do here. That is not the norm here. And people are used to this leverage standpoint and make sense of their internal rate of returns and their equity position. And that's because with developers, if you have 5% equity or even 10%, you get 90% loan to cost. Through our tools, you have the ability as a developer to effectively reduce your equity position in that project to where developers can BRRRR developments. Not a lot of people know that. They think that your equity is your equity in. Well, no, those tools that developers use because they want to make money off this like anybody else. They're not condo builders. They're not selling. They need to make money off their costs. They need to make money off of their fees. And you can do that while building. And so when you have a 25% equity position on the non-insured markets, that gap to get your equity out is much greater than 5%.
Right.
And so, there's developers out here building with next to no money in deals.
And just so people they have cash to do the deal.
Yes. It's when the deal is done.
When the deal's done.
Yes.
Before anyone thinks that you can do
it's a lot of money.
Down. There's a lot of money that they have. They just get that money out of the deal. They burn out.
Correct.
The classic duplex BRRRR to the 100-unit building BRRRR.
Correct. The same thing can be done. It's just much more. You have to strategically plan it out. You have to be in control of your design and your build. But like I said, on the conventional markets, you're going to leave capital in the deal unless for some reason you bought your land at extremely low prices if it was given to you and you had a massive land lift. There's too much equity for people to be able to continue on the non-insured markets.
Right. What are you seeing right now? What else do we need to know about CMHC? What else is new? Yep. What do we need to know?
So they've clarified rental achievement holdbacks, which was probably the next biggest, gray area with CMHC over the last couple of years is, they were stating that anything over 75 million in loan size, they were automatically going to do a rental achievement holdback, which means they limit your loan to 75% of costs. And then once your effective gross income is met, so we call it EGI, or once the building is stabilized, at that point, they would then release the funds back up to 95%. So meaning you would have to bridge that gap with capital. Even though you qualified for a 95% loan to cost loan, you have to bridge that gap with an extra 10, 15, whatever that percentage would end up being, which is a lot to stomach on a project, right? And you didn't know. So you would submit to CMHC. It's not like they had a clear rule set. You wouldn't know. So you would have to, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, am I going to need a second position behind this? Am I going to need a mezz top up? Like what's going to happen here? Now, with the rule change they did with energy efficiency a couple weeks ago, they also announced with rental achievement holdback, there's clear defined rules.
Okay.
And essentially, you have to be over 95% loan to value, and your DSR has to be less than 1.2. With both of those together, you would trigger, regardless of your loan size, a rental achievement holdback to 85% of costs.
Okay.
Which is great news. So this is a win for developers.
Is it because it's clarity now?
Because it's clarity.
Clarity, right? Okay.
And you can avoid it. So because there's clear defined outlines of those two requirements, you would make sure that your total loan to value is 95% or less. Right. There are developers who do build higher than 90, because most people, when they hear that, they're like, why would anybody build above 95% of value? Well, some people build at 100% of value. Some people build over that. They could be at 98% of value, but only 95% of costs, right? So where their costs are greater than their value.
Right.
And so people have to build. There are entities and groups and companies that need to keep going. There's employers. And so, yes, people do build higher than their value, which is why CMHC is like, we got to hold back. We have insurance premiums on top of that. So a lot of these insured loans are past 105% loan to value.
Wow.
Right? When you add the premium on top. So I think now we have these clear defined these rules, less than 95% loan to value, the DSR less than 1.2, you're going to be okay. If your loan to value is higher than 95% loan to value and you have a DSR less than 1.2, you're going to be hit with 85% of costs.
It's amazing the magnitude of some of these projects without this clarity before. This is kind of like flying by the seat of our pants,
100%.
right? Like these people are forking out tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's like, we're gonna get to the end and kind of see where
it lands.
See where the cookie crumbles here. It's wild.
Well, we were advising our clients previous to this, hey, we're qualifying at 95% of costs before they clarified this, and we strongly recommend, although technically you need 10% equity or whatever it ends up being, we strongly recommend you act as if you're going to get hit with a rental achievement holdback, especially in the larger loans, right, and you're going to get 75% of cost. Be prepared to have that capital to have to equity inject in, right? Because it was that was a hard pill for a lot of people to stomach. So this is definitely a win by CMHC. They felt the pain, they felt the I'm sure the complaints, the unknown within the industry leaders and the lenders who I'm sure were driving this to allow some clarity.
So that definitely gives us some clarity on the rental achievement. How else are they viewing and underwriting files? Like what do my $2 million developers need to know? What do the $10 million developers know? Like what are we seeing? What are they looking at?
Yeah, so essentially the 2025 rental report just came out a few days ago by CMHC, and obviously vacancy across the nation has increased. Okay. I think we're roughly at about 3% right now across the nation. Some cities have almost doubled their vacancy from the low 2s upwards of the 4s. I believe Kitchener-Waterloo is now slightly over 4% in vacancy. So CMHC is definitely on the rental side, adjusting vacancies, adjusting rental targets. So if you're submitting with high rents, be prepared that there may be pushback on that. Cap rates as well. There's a lot of people trying to compress cap rates to make deals work. So being conservative in your cap rates is paramount because you may get pushback there. So underwriting as a whole, especially on the construction side, they're tightening up, and rightfully so. Yeah. Pro formas of 2 years ago that are being put into CMHC right now are for the most part not going to work. So you should be underwriting for today. Yeah. Okay. With that, timelines. We're probably seeing timelines increase right now on the construction. So this doesn't matter what size of loan you have. It could be anywhere between 12 and 16 weeks right now for an underwriter to pick a file up. Okay. So important to note when you're in design and development that you're have your holding costs associated with your project and you're accounting for that. But overall, we're still seeing files get approved at what we're submitting for. Whether that be 95% of cost or value on both construction and existing buildings. We're not, if submitted correctly, good files are getting good results. And I think that's the key thing here. Good submissions are getting good results. Poor submissions, you're leaving it up to the underwriter. And that's never a good thing.
Right. And there was I'm very transparent in my mortgage business. We obviously do a ton of volume. I don't do CMHC files. I work with the For Capital guys, the Vision guys. I work with the CMHC pros. There's not direct correspondence anymore, but there are people who know what they're doing and do it every day. Could I do a CMHC file? Absolutely. But I would rather work with the pros on the CMHC stuff because you guys live it, breathe it, you know it all. So the direct correspondence is gone.
Yes.
But there are commercial CMHC brokers and you need to work with them because you guys get it. And packaging, submission,
Correct.
all of those things this process isn't fast. And if it's submitted wrong, it's even worse.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's super important to be working with guys like you.
Yeah. So people often ask, why would we work with a commercial broker, right? And for the simple point of, much like a residential broker, we have access to all of these lenders. But it's not only the access. Anybody can get access. It's that we have deal flow. We have deal flow with sophisticated investors. So people coming to us are leveraging our experience with our other clients because now through doing deals with those clients, they've allowed us to have these relationships with prominent lenders and prominent, departments within those lenders who we built, lasting relationships with through our volume. And so lenders now, trust us to the point where we're submitting full packages on our own without review. Right? Whereas if you have somebody who doesn't have that relationship or experience, they're going to have to go through different channels to get that file submitted. It will still get submitted to CMHC, but the control is not there. With commercial real estate, is all about accuracy, control, and who you know. And it's not a portal where you can just hit submit. There's a lot of moving parts, and like you said, there's a lot of mistakes that can happen, and there's a lot of human error. Because there's so many hands in the kitchen here.
Yeah.
And so our job is to mitigate that, is to control that, and to do that without the client having to be involved through that. Because if they were to be like these developers, a lot of them, they don't have time to put all that together.
No.
And nor do they want just one lender putting it all together. It's important to spread your portfolio out amongst multiple lenders.
100%. I think that just further reiterates the point of, I love what you said about your submissions from different developers and different clients help you guys submit the next file better. If somebody's doing one or two CMHC files a year, it's so dynamic, it changes so fast.
Correct.
That if you haven't been submitting multiple files a week and you're still going off what the underwriter said 3 months ago, you're kind of out of date.
Yep.
Like CMHC changes their policies, but then there's the music of the deal. Like what are the nuances? What are the little things that you guys are proactively getting ahead to improve that submission? So
yeah, and then there's all the hidden rules that you don't know about outside of their big announcements, which just are industry rumors. But nonetheless, you still need to be cognizant of them and aware and speak to different people to protect your clients and your clients' files. And maybe there's something that got passed down from one lender that one lender is seeing, and that you can pass down to your client to protect them to stop something from happening in the future. So it's all those little conversations that happen, like any industry, but real estate and commercial real estate specifically is very slow moving.
Yep.
And it's whether that be the document collection process, how we submit files. So we at For Capital are trying to improve that, and we're doing that through online portals, through our CRMs, through our staff that we hire, our commercial analysts that work for us full time. Integrating AI has been very big for us over the last probably, I'd say, 3 months. We've really ramped up AI. So integrating all of those different facets outside of what the norm is in commercial real estate has definitely allowed us to take on larger clients, more deal flow, and be more prominent figures in the industry.
Love it. I want to talk to you a little bit about condo developers switching to rental. But before I do that, I'm going to start doing this on pretty much every podcast that we do. How are you guys using AI to be as a competitive edge?
Yeah, great question. So at first, everybody just uses the ChatGPT, and you do the odd, check your email, verify your spelling, the little things that it's great for. But recently we've implemented it to, do our client onboarding our emails, like the auto notifications, the templates. We've really created a company-wide platform within ChatGPT to ensure that all of our drop-in tools are ready for all of our staff members. It could be as simple as verifying 12 months of utilities on a utility statement, and you could drop that in, have it pre-programmed. And I'm not speaking the right terminology here because we have people that do this. I don't know how, but it's dropped in and it's completely done. You still have to verify the work, but it beats a human sitting there for 45 minutes going through 12 different statements. And there's other programs. It's not just ChatGPT we use. There's other programs that we use outside of ChatGPT that are AI interfaced that do this and have specific tasks. And the accuracy is incredible. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Every week there's something else we implement that I'm like, wow, you know?
So 3 years ago on the Mortgage Alliance trip, the marketing person, Brian, was there, and he said, AI won't replace humans, but humans that use AI will. And I couldn't believe that more. I couldn't believe in that more. Where every day we're trying to use AI more in our business. I've got the new app in my email that's drafting all the responses for me. And right now I just got it, so it's still learning. It's like 50-50 already. It's like half the time I'm looking and be like, send. That's exactly what I would say. Now, for more complex answers, I need to massage it. Sometimes it's wrong.
Yeah.
But for like basic stuff, coordinating things, I'm looking at it, I'm like, that is exactly what I would have spent 30 seconds typing.
Yep.
When you add that up over a year, that's huge. And I don't want to lose my personal touch. I don't want it to look like AI is responding, but it looked at my previous responses and said, here's a draft. And you would never know that was AI. You would think that I typed that.
AI is great at tasks. It'll be great at everything. White collar, maybe even blue collar jobs at some point, right? But AI, and I can't remember where I heard this from. I think it was Ryan Cernhart. Ryan Cernhart's book.
Yep.
He added a new chapter to his book, and it was because somebody that he sold to, who is a very prominent figure in AI, bought a $200 million condo from him, said that AI will replace everything but selling. AI cannot sell. And that's the human interaction. That at the end of the day is what we all...
Job security for us?
Job security for us. That at the end of the day is what we all do as humans.
Yeah.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, everyone's selling something at some point. There's a form of negotiation involved. And I think that if you can master AI, like you said, within that realm, you will be ahead. The people who do not use AI and continue to do it the old way, I think are going to be challenged in the future. It's not now. I think you're still a learning curve, but I'm definitely seeing it in the industry where, you know, the younger generation who are implementing these, they will have a leg up without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
It's amazing. We're getting short on time here, but I do want to talk about one thing, and probably a lot of our viewers aren't going to do this, but I think it's important for us to understand. What are you seeing from the big condo developers? I feel like I drive around town and I see more and more purpose-built high-rises for purpose-built rental high-rises. What are you seeing on that side? Is that a trend? Is that a fad? What do you see?
Yeah, we're seeing that on the small mid-scale condos and the large high-rise towers that come across our desk. You know, most of them don't go through, obviously.
Why don't they go through?
The numbers are very hard to pencil out. Developers who are building condos want profits.
Right.
They want to make money. Most of these...
Seems obvious.
It seems obvious. Most of these are not purpose-built rental builders with they have very little experience. You know, you have somebody that's building 900 units and they've never even heard of CMHC, believe it or not.
Wow.
Right? And so it's sort of like an old boys club, the condo developer regime there in throughout GTA. And so do some projects work? Depends on your land acquisition cost, depends on your build cost, depends on what your rents are. Do some people need to do it because it's their only way out of their debt that they've accumulated on that land and all of the money they put in, and it's to stop the bleeding and to get out and they can still own the asset with minimal equity and then have some cash flow? Yes, those projects do exist, but what we've seen, it's few and far between. Most still don't pencil out, and most developers would probably want to hold out a little longer to see if they can, you know, make some sense of it in their margins a few years later down the road if the market improves.
So did I hear that right? That they're almost, some of them are doing it from more of a defensive position.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay, so it's not that they like this model better. They want to sell condos.
They want to sell condos
But
still.
on this project, they have a high debt cost. They can't be stagnant. They need to drive forward.
Correct.
So this isn't necessarily profitable, but it creates, it stops the burn.
Yeah, and every project's different. There definitely are some that are profitable, and I would say the smaller ones, they're making more sense of, so your 50, 60 unit buildings that were going to be a mid-sized condominium unit, those types of projects. Yeah, there's a lot of people converting to purpose-built rental, or people who are just in initial planning, and they hadn't even started yet. They flipped the script entirely and switched to PBR before they even spent, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on soft cost design.
Not perhaps blue ribbon. Everyone was wondering.
And so those people, yes, the mid-sized developers, we see those all the time. People pivoting, and rightfully so. But at the same token, the influx of condos that are not selling are now rental units. And so now you've got this little competition in the market amongst the rental units of the PBRs competing with the high amenity, high luxury condo units in the same area competing for similar rents. Well, who are people going to go to? They're going to go to the condos, right, where you get underground parking, where you get the same rent, you get the amenity space. And so we're seeing an influx there of condos driving down purpose-built rental units. Right. And so that I think is something to be mindful of.
I just want to go full circle here. Yep. We talked about you in 2019, bought a duplex, and switched to commercial because you can control the exit. And we're finishing off, you're talking about how major developers on some of these PBRs are essentially doing the same thing. They're saying the condo market, the comps are whacked. I don't know if I can sell. I don't know if I can profit. If I do a PBR, I can control my exit.
That is correct.
So they can control their data. They can control that variable change. So it's, for those of you who are starting on your first project, the lessons and the skills that you're learning are transferable throughout your growth. So I think that's really cool how we got there.
That is a great way to end it.
Yeah, that's a great way. I forgot to prep you in advance for this. So we want your hard truth. So you can give me a hard truth for a newbie and a hard truth for a more seasoned pro.
Okay, so I'm going to keep it to development because that's what we've been speaking about. So for a newbie, getting too far ahead in the process without being at a percentage of design and development through the different stakeholders and consultants where you're comfortable that that's where your project's going to land, meaning suite layouts, unit mixes, gross floor areas, net leasable square footage. Not having that dialed in and rushing and making assumptions and getting too far ahead, there can be mistakes.
And you also get deep into sunk costs where people start driving through projects that are wonky.
Exactly.
But they're pot committed. They've got too much in.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And if you've already lined up, maybe you're raising capital, maybe it's your own capital, and you've got all that, and you've promised a 45 unit, and it ends up being a 38 unit, but you got everybody onboarded ahead of time, and you just kind of rushed it a little bit. Maybe even your financing is ordered, but your financing has changed because now your unit count has changed, or your leases have changed because your units are actually smaller than what you thought they were going to be by 75 square feet. That's where I see mistakes happen. So I would say it's a slow process. You only get fast as you get experienced, and you only get fast by the team members you surround yourself with, and it's repetition. You're not going to be able to go at lightning speed on your first one, and if you plan like that, that's where we see a lot of mistakes happen. So that would be for a newbie. For an experienced investor, I would say taking on too much at one time, even if you do have the experience to back it, especially in today's market with developments.
Yep.
You may get the approvals, you may get the CMHC financing, you may have the capital, but there are a domino effect of every project we know goes longer and usually goes higher in costs. And so balancing that, it's not a rush. And we find people want to rush, and then we have clients that do 1 or 2 a year and are very successful. Everyone to each their own has their own. There's no right or wrong, but I would say just slow down, especially in this market. I think you're going to benefit from that in the future.
It's not the 2020 heyday where you can throw darts at a board and win. And the other advice I like to give people in that same thing is go slow, get the project done, and celebrate.
Yeah. Take it in.
Just take it in, enjoy it, go on a vacation, take your spouse out for a nice dinner. You know, when things were going like this, there was this like, I got to keep going, I got to keep going.
Yeah.
Today's market, take your win, take some chips off the board, and celebrate, and then look for another amazing deal.
Yes, take a chance to breathe.
Yes.
Soak it all in, and there will always be another deal.
Especially now, there's lots of opportunity. Chris, absolute pleasure. We'll make sure we link your information, contact information. Chris with the 4 Capital Commercial Mortgage Group. Thanks again, wealth of knowledge, and looking forward to have you or one of the other 4 Capital guys on next. So
Amazing. Thanks, Al.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yep.